Every now and then a book comes along that startles the culture, reawakens it, or awakens it in a way that it didn't know it was asleep to before. I think it's sort of like the way the band musically woke up so many of us to the power of a kind of American music that we had not seen like this before. This book did that for me to an area of the country that, of course, I'd heard about, but never had someone evoke the power of it through food the way that Ronni Lundy does. How do you think this word is pronounced? It's not pronounced the way it looks. That's the magic of the English language. This book came out in 2016. I think it won the Book of the Year award from the James Beard Foundation. I meant to look that up, but we all have the ability to Google. But back to the pronunciation of the title of this book. We have heard this word before, maybe in some kind of a jokey TV show or something, or a Lil Abner cartoon, but the word is not pronounced the way it looks. Ronni, an amazing woman, she says, "Say it the way my people have for centuries. Vittles." I think in the cartoon it was usually spelled Vittles. Here she has it as Vidls. Maybe you've seen it spelled Vittles, like I just said, in a cartoon balloon coming from the mouth of Mammy Yokum. I guess this was something I remembered from before, or heard it as the punchline delivered before Granny Clampett clogs off to roast up a mess of possum. Maybe you thought saying it that way was wrong. But look that word up in the dictionary. It turns out my people, the people of southern Appalachian mountains, have been right about vittles all along, about the way you say them, the way you raise them, the way you cook them, keep them, and share them, about saving seeds and working the land and simmering pole beans and making real cornbread, about the connection between earth and the table, and between the table and the people seated around it. She writes, I explored Kentucky. This is for the research of the book. I explored Kentucky, West Virginia, Southern Ohio, Northern Georgia, Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina. I searched back and through history and joined others in imagining the future. I ate and cooked up a remarkable amount of really good food. This book will take you back on that journey with me. She was born in Corbin, a railroad town in eastern Kentucky. So she is of the land that she speaks about. I made these marks 2016, I'm sure. She writes about a gentleman named Ian Bowden, and he said, my parents are from New York originally, and I thought that was my scene. I worked there just shy of 10 years and had some good successes. But toward the end of that time, I started to feel like we chefs were losing track of why we were doing what we were doing. The business had become focused on media, on getting attention rather than what brought us here, feeding people. Absolutely. When I began to cook, there was simply no way in the world that we would have looked into the future and thought that we cooks would be anything other than blue collar, really. And I had no problem with that. I wanted to join a team. I wanted to be part of some band, if you will, and it worked that way. She's talking about someone who's cooking there, and here's what it's Ian. Okay, it's Ian again. There are also dishes on the menu that are riffs on the region: morel gravy, sausage and sorghum sauce, buttermilk pie with vinegared strawberries, tiny crisp radishes kissed with pork fat and salt. One night, Ian served a banana pudding with a cracker-like crust that was unlike any I'd ever eaten, and yet an eerie throwback to my childhood and how my cousins and I loved that blend of sweet and salty. Do you call the Shack, the name of his restaurant, she asks, do you call the Shack an Appalachian restaurant? And he thinks a minute before answering. This is why I'm bringing this up right here. When you're part of a community that comes through when you cook, I try to pay homage, but to do it my way. My pot liquor is based on tradition, but it's not traditional. I put fish sauce and soy sauce in mine. So no, I wouldn't say it's an Appalachian restaurant based on the food, but yes, it is in the fact that everything we do here is to honor Tissy, his relative, and the life she led. People get hung up on authentic. And what is authentic? And they feel as if maybe Ian broke the rules, totally broke the rules by putting fish sauce or soy sauce or a combination of them in this dish. But to me, this is what I was going after when I was turning that corner in Key West and I wrote fusion cuisine, was not to do something because it was just to be different. It was to do something because I had experienced new notes. Going back to the band, I mean, they didn't recreate the music of the 1940s and 50s of America. They created their interpretation of it. And so I think that's right. I think that's fine. I think that is what to search for, not slavishly following some idea of authenticity. I mean, you can't be an authentic Italian restaurant and serve tomatoes. Well, there were no tomatoes in Italy, right? Not until the New World was discovered and they came over from the New World to the Old World, and we all know that one. Beautiful photography. Salt of the Earth is the name of this particular chapter. There is no beginning to this history, but one place to start is with salt. And I do start with salt. I'm going to leave you with, where did it go? Okay. She's talking about her family, and she says, my dad loved any job that required muscle and took him outside. One summer, he and my great-uncle Charlie built a garage from the foundation up, the sound of boards slapping, and the two men talking and laughing, riding like a melody over the rhythm of the locusts. They would come in the house, still telling a story, riffing back and forth like jazz hipsters. That's poetry. That's just poetry. Everybody who cares about American cuisine needs to understand how vital Victuals and the Appalachian experience is to the totality of what makes food great in this country. 2016, I chose it as my book of the year. Here it is, not quite a decade later, and it's still one of, and will always be one of my treasure books. Thank you, Ronni Lundy, for writing this book and giving so much of your heart in doing it. I can't wait to thank you in person. All right, everybody, I'll talk to you soon. See you soon for a treasure book. I hope you're enjoying the series, and please let me know if you are. I love doing it for you. Adios.